Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers with the Sandy 255, and we're working on a Rube Goldberg machine, a rigid body simulation. This is part 2. So we've got everything set up now. We've got our hinge constraints set up, and we've got our rigid bodies and passive rigid bodies set up. So what I would highly recommend that you do, save what you have before you start your simulation. If you do find that you need to change your simulation for any reason, make sure you select the object. You want to take the simulation off, or the rigid bodies or the constraints off. You're going to need to select the object, go in and go to, can't really see this here, edit, delete by all by type, and we've got rigid bodies and constraints. Either one of those will work. You can do both if you want to make sure it's getting rid of everything, but rigid bodies and rigid constraints. That's under delete all by type. Okay? And that will get rid of it. That's really the only way. You can go ahead and select it and delete it. There's going to be some residual issues if you just delete things like this. Okay? You think you're getting rid of it, and then you put another one on, it might give you some kind of a warning. So what I would highly recommend is that you do the edit, delete by all type, rigid bodies, okay, like I showed you before. Alright, so now we're ready to add gravity to the pieces that need it. Okay, so all of them had rigid bodies, so if I click on one object and go Control A, you can see that I can click on rigid body, and we have the same thing. We have static friction, we have dynamic friction, we have bounciness and dampening, and we've got all this other stuff here too as well. Okay, so you just remember that's where you can find everything. You can keyframe impulse, you can keyframe all of this stuff that we've done with earlier with our bowling alley. Okay, so you got a real nice taste of that, so you should kind of know what you're doing with that thing as far as dynamic simulation. You know kind of the ins and outs of what you can do. This is a lot more involved, because you have to move things around while you try to simulate everything to make sure it looks right. Okay, so let's go ahead and add gravity. Start the gravity with the small ball on top, and let's go to end solvers, fields and solvers, and go to create gravity. Let's go into the option box, make sure it's all set up. Let's reset it and click on create. So anything that we want gravity applied to, we can go ahead and select it. Okay, so we want gravity to on all these. Okay, so what I can do is I can select every single one of these and add gravity if I want to. I don't want to do it one at a time, that's for sure. Let's go ahead and just do that. We want to add gravity to this ball, and we don't want anything else. We don't want to add gravity to anything else. That's it. So let's go ahead and go in here to Windows, Relationship Editors, Dynamic Relationships, and now we can just open this up and click on gravity. We'll go right up here and just go down as far as we can with gravity for the simulation. Here we go. Don't miss anything. There we go. And if you don't add gravity, what's going to happen is that when the ball hits the dominoes, they're going to fly all over the place without gravity. I mean, like acting like they're in space. Okay, there we go. Awesome. So with that done, you're good to go for that. We'll click off. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is we're going to use the spreadsheet, because I don't want to select these individually and change those. Now we don't have a lot of issues. The spreadsheet, I probably don't need to go and use the spreadsheet for one thing at a time, but if you have dominoes like this, it really does come in handy. So I'm going to go ahead. I don't want the bounciness to be on these. I want them to react properly. I don't want them to act like rubber balls, so I'm going to go ahead and select every one of these, and I'll show you how to do the spreadsheet. Okay, so this is great for multiple objects, so you don't have to tweak them one at a time, which would be really horrible in your simulation. So if something goes wrong, you can easily have the spreadsheet up and running to go. So go to Windows, General Editors for that, and then go into the attribute spreadsheet. Okay, awesome. Alright, so here we have it. You can see everything that we've got so far in here, which is cool. So those are all my the dominoes. Okay, you can see I've got bounciness right here, which is really cool. And you got the dampening, static friction. So I'm gonna not worry about the dampening. I don't really want to dampen anything. I want those to fall freely. But if you do have one that's acting squirrely on you, you can probably add a little dampening powers to it, so it just kind of holds it up, right? It's up to you, but it's going to be harder to push over. Be slower too. So this is what I'm really worried about. I'm going to go to bouncing. I'm going to click on one and just slide it all the way down to the bottom, and that opens that up. And I'm going to do a 0.1. I don't mind a little bounciness. That's natural. And then static friction. That's way too high, I think. That's just my opinion. Now they fell pretty good without changing that. We could start off with a 0.2. Now if I don't have a little static friction, they're going to slide all over the place. So let's keep it the way it is. The bounciness is what I didn't really like the last time. So I'm going to click off. Alright, so I'm going to leave this up. I can just minimize that if I need it again. And then with this, I can just tweak these out the way I want. So I want the static friction to be really low, 0.01 on that one, and 0.01 on that one. And the bounciness, I want it to be 0.1. So a little bounciness, okay? And do the same thing for these. Alright, and if you want to use the spreadsheet, go ahead. Okay. There just isn't a whole lot for me by the time I do this and you get the spreadsheet going in just about the same amount of time. It's when you get into big numbers and stuff like that that you have issues. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add, and you got to figure out kind of what we need to do here. Again, I'm not going to have as much bounciness as I want here, so I'm just going to go 0.1 on there. And the same thing with this, I don't want any bounciness here whatsoever. Sorry for the ringing. And bounciness here, same thing, just 0.1 on that. And 0.1 on that. Bounciness can cause a lot of problems, so let's just take care of that right now. And same thing with the floor, probably a good idea to do a 0.1 on that and a 0.1 on that. There we go. So I'm just going to double check everything just really quickly if I have the settings up right. I forgot about that one. 0.01 on that one. We want to run freely down the chute, and we don't want it to bounce at all on that. And this one I think was okay. I think I was okay with that. There we go. And that we want it to run freely down, 0.01 on that one. And 0.01 on that one. Okay, that looks good. So that will slide through that pretty quickly. That's what we want. Want the simulation to be as fast as possible, even though we know that's not going to happen. So bounciness, bounciness, bounciness is good. Static friction is good on these. Okay. Alright, we want to slide down pretty good on that. Okay, I think we got everything except for the ball. Bounciness of the ball, 0.1. Static friction, 0.01. So this will run nice and freely on there. There we go. Okay, I think we have everything set up and ready to simulate. We can try our first simulation just to see what changes we need to make. Now when the simulation gets longer and longer and I make changes, I'm going to be pausing so you guys don't go crazy on the other side watching my simulation over and over again. I don't want that to happen. So we'll simulate it together the first time and see how it goes. and see the areas that we need to work on. And it's normal that the dynamic simulations usually run about twice as slow, which is kind of strange. It's just how it is. Oh! Okay. Alright, so we just missed that. I mean, just missed it. So, static friction on this, we might want to bring up a little bit to slow it down just a little bit. Let's go back. Now, when I make these changes, you'll be able to see, and I'll let you see the changes that I make. So I'm going to go back. Because it's actually going pretty quickly now, I'm going to set that to 0.1 on that, static friction on that 1.1, and see if that slows it down enough, okay, so it'll hits that. So I'm going to go ahead and play the simulation, click off, play the simulation, and pause the video. So you can see how the static friction has slowed it down considerably. So I'm going to stop the simulation, that's way too slow. So that's kind of a problem. So what I can do is I could either bring this up so it does hit the cup and then slide down, but then I have to bring this up too. So let me do that real quick. So I'll show you how to make adjustments here. So I need to select the hinge, okay, and I need to shift select the cup, and I need to move it up. That way when the ball hits it, it'll slam into that, and hopefully it will stop. And then here, I'm not sure what's going to happen here, so I'm going to have to bring that up, and I hope the ball hits the top of that. That's the problem. You always run risk into moving one thing, and then you got to change everything else. So we'll risk it and see how it goes. Alright, so made some moves. You always have to start the simulation from the beginning again if you make adjustments like that, because it'll really mess it up. I am going to go back in here and change this to 0.01 because the ball was moving pretty quickly, and I like that. Okay, that's really important. And I'll start the simulation, get a little bit closer so we can see it, and I'll pause it. Okay, it's running a lot better now. Here we go. Hopefully it stops it. Yes, it does. And then we should have it drop. There we go. Perfect. Okay, that looks good so far. That's rolling really well. Okay, hopefully it hits. There we go. Awesome. So far, so good. Alright, let's see what happens over here. Oh, it's slowing down. It's still gonna do it. Yep. Boom. Oh, yes. Okay. Awesome. Looks good so far. Is this gonna work? And I forgot to turn the friction off on the ball, so that's pretty slow, but it's still working okay. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so now I know the issues that I need to fix. Okay, so a couple things. What I'm going to do, we got to start from the beginning again, is I'm going to move this up a little bit, just like that. And when I do that, I've got to move the ball up too again. Okay, so I'm going to move that up. So, whoops. And so it's not touching. You cannot touch anything with this ball when it's a rigid body and it's got gravity to it. Alright, so what I forgot to do is change this. So we want that 0.01 and this to be 0.01 on that. Bounciness to be 0.1. So I forgot that. And this was set up right? Yep. What happened here was that it rotated down and the ball somehow, and I thought I calculated this right, somehow still kind of found its way back. Okay, so I'm going to help it out a little bit. So I'm going to go back with that and just rotate this one a little bit like that. And I need to add some dampening to this. I already know that I need to add dampening because it's going to be running at a pretty high speed, and I do not want it to fall off. It could still probably do that. Okay. So I might even have to put a barrier here like I did here. Keep that ball from falling out. We'll have to see. I'm going to add a little more rotation, and I'm going to add a lot more dampening to this. Okay. And the static friction, I probably could turn that up 2.5 so it doesn't roll off the back of it. Let's try everything I can to keep that ball on there. And we'll set this to dampening at 1. And then this one here, we'll set the dampening a lot higher to something like 2. Okay. Alright, I think that's good. We don't have to have a high static friction here. In fact, we could probably go 0.1 on here. Probably be okay. Now that simulation is pretty long already. Okay. So let me see what I have on here just to make sure. And dampening. Well, I don't need dampening on there because once it falls in, I want it to flip up pretty quick. So I think we're okay. Alright, this is what you have to do. Simulation. You gotta tweak things out as you go along. Just keep your fingers crossed. Nothing else changes here. What I've noticed about dynamic simulation is that when you tweak one thing out, it messes with a lot of stuff you wouldn't think it would. So keep that in mind when you're doing your dynamic simulations. Okay. So I'll go ahead and play the simulation. We already know everything works up to that point, and if it doesn't, I'll make sure you guys see it. I'll stop it and replay it for you. But it should get up to the point of the ball hitting this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait, so you don't have to, because it's like watching paint dry. Okay. So wait till it gets to this point, and then I'll turn the video back on. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to simulate now. Okay, so the ball fell out and it's stuck right there. Okay, so a couple things that I learned with this simulation, I'm going to go ahead and stop it, is that I forgot to put my hinges back up when I moved those. So I don't think that's a real issue with this simulation. I think that I need to move that closer to the wall. I think I had that issue with that before, but it did fall, but the ball is falling over in the corner here. So there might be a couple things I need to do to get this to work properly, okay? Because the ball got kind of stuck there. So again, we run into selecting this and moving it over as far as I can. I can't be against the wall, so I got to be as close as I can. And move it up a little bit. Now what I can do is from the top view, and this does cause some issues sometimes, and I'm hoping it doesn't this time, but if you move vertices after you add a passive rigid body, you might have to go back and delete the history, delete the rigid bodies and all that stuff and start over again with that particular object, because the object then decides, oh, I don't see your changes, so I'm going to move that just a little bit like that, because I know the ball's going to cup over on or move over to the side here. So I'm going to go ahead and try to move that one more time over together as close as I can so the ball will fall in. I think we're pretty good there now. Okay. Alright, good. Alright, so we got to start from the very beginning again. And I think we got everything set up. I think we can do it one more time, and I think we're good to go. We'll see how it goes. And everything's looking good, so go ahead and play the simulation and pause it. Okay, I unpaused it real quick because I've got a rigid body interpenetration occurred between rigid body 1 and rigid body 39, and those are those two. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed to make sure that that's not the case. If it is, I'll have to move it out and fix it. This is what happens when you move vertices around. Okay, it doesn't see it anymore. Okay, so we'll see if it will work, and if it doesn't, I've got to go back where I was. Okay, so I'll go ahead and okay, so we're back again. We're going to see if this is a problem, and oh, it's going to work. Perfect. That's what we wanted to see. All right, it gave me a warning. It worked. Okay, so if that happened to you, see that it will give you a warning saying you got two pieces that interpenetrate each other, even though that's not even touching the wall, it's very close, but it's not touching, it remembered that I moved the vertices and doesn't recognize that the vertices have been moved and that is clipping the wall. I was lucky enough that it actually still worked. Okay, so I'm good to go. So it's awesome. So we're done. That's it. So if you got this part done, now what if it didn't work? Okay, what you have to do is you have to select the object that it didn't work with, and I'm not going to do this because we've already got to this point. Select the object, go into edit to fix this, delete all by type, rigid bodies and rigid body constraints. Those two you need to hit on that single object. Once those are done, then you want to select the object and it gets rid of everything. You know, keep the object where you want it, and then you have to start over. You have to go basically center pivot, you know, delete history, freeze transformations, select the object again, and then add the hinge to it. Okay, and then you have to resimulate. That's what you'd have to do if it didn't work after you messed with it. Okay, so that's how you fix that kind of thing. Just remember that you're going to run into that. You're going to try to figure out why something's not working. Well, if something's not working, then what you have to do is take the rigid body constraints off, the rigid bodies off, start over with that particular object, clean it out, clean it up by center pivoting, delete history, blah blah blah, freeze transformations, and then you can add the hinge back and try it again. Okay, that's how you solve those issues. Okay, so once you're happy, and I'm very happy with the simulation, okay, so I'm ready to move on. So what's the next step is you save your work, of course. So we're going to do simulation 2. It's our second simulation, and 16 on this. There we go. Save it. Okay, and then we're going to bake it. And now we're happy with what we have. Then we're going to bake it. So what we want to do is you want to select all the active rigid bodies, which means that you're going to have all these other pieces. So active rigid body, this is a hinge, that's active rigid body. All of these guys, whoops. Let's do it one at a time here. There we go. Don't marquee select stuff, it really messes it up. It doesn't know what to do. Whoop. Be careful what you're selecting. Okay, so that's an active rigid body. That is, and that is. Okay, so those are the pieces that are active rigid bodies. Whoops, not that. Didn't mean to do that. So active, hinge, active, active, hinge, hinge, hinge. So those are all active. So now we're going to go in here, go to edit, keys, and bake simulation. Okay, go into the option box. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and reset it. And usually I just leave this the way it is. I'm happy. If there's something that you want to change, I don't see anything we need to change. I think we're good. Alright, so we're going from 1 to all the way to 2000, and just go ahead and select bake. That is only bake when you are very satisfied with your end result. It's given us all kinds of rigid body interpenetrations at the bottom here, as you can see. Okay, we'll see if we have any issues. I'm going to let you watch the whole thing. We're close to the end anyway. Alright, so it's popping down. Everything's looking good. So far, so good. Sometimes you can ignore the yellow. It's telling you some situations that are happening. Once you get this bake done, you're good to go. That means that you can't lose what you have once you bake it. So if everything works out here for me, then see how that ball's kind of sliding instead of rolling? Okay. You won't really know that. Normally you wouldn't want that to happen. There we go. And that's it. So let it run all the way through. Okay. Okay, awesome. Those are our keyframes. It simulates with every keyframe, as you guys know. Click off of here. Now, what do you do with all this stuff then? Well, what I do is I just select everything. Okay, what I do, what I should do before I do that is save. Save scene, and this will be 17, and save. So I always say something when you do something major. I'm going to do something really major here. I don't want to lose everything, so I saved it. So I'm going to select everything. Let me go in here. Why didn't it select everything? That's kind of strange. That is really odd. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and go back. Simulation. I don't want to have to click all these one at a time. Here we go. It might be because I have all this animation on it, on some of this stuff. Okay, so let me click on these things separately, I guess. Okay, because I don't want any dynamics in here whatsoever slowing us down. So I'm just going to select everything by hand. And because we have keyframe animation on here, or it's keyframed now. I'm not getting rid of that. I'm just getting rid of the dynamic stuff that's slowing everything down still. That needs to be taken care of, so let's get rid of that. So edit, all by type history, delete all by type. Rigid body constraints. Okay, took care of that. Edit, delete all by type, rigid bodies. Took care of that. So all we have left is our keyframe. Cool. Awesome. We don't have anything else in here. So now we're free to play this. Okay, awesome. So this is what I want to talk about, is that once you have everything baked, you're good to go. Once you bake everything, you are good to go, meaning that you can go in here and take and stop it, and you can go back and forth with it. Okay. Oh, look at that. Those pieces back there are moving. Look at the weight. It's like falling down, or actually they're moving up. That's really strange, but it still worked. That is really strange. Look at that. Okay. Okay, so here's something that I thought was kind of fun that I didn't see right away that you might have a problem with. So if that ball comes down, it hits the back of that, and that thing moves up, notice that without gravity it's going to move up, and it probably would have spun around a couple times. So move it close to this, so when the ball does hit the base of it, it knocks into it. There we go. And then it went back down. Okay, that worked out for us. That's cool. Now you're free with the simulation to add textures. Some of you would probably want to add textures first. That just kind of makes sense, because I could still add textures to this. I could isolate it, like that with the Control 1, and go ahead and texture map this if I wanted to, if I really felt like it. But this one you don't have to, but your mousetrap you will. Okay. So hopefully you had a lot of fun. Now all we have to do is the last part of the simulation. And some of you might want to practice with the camera. So I could probably do something like this, which is fun, with the Playblast. So I'll show you what kind of some techniques that I use. So I'm in the I should probably save this before I start doing it again. Something different. So let's do 18. And you've seen this before. Okay. So I want a Playblast of this first. Okay, and then I'll show you another one that makes it a little more interesting. You only have to give me this one, so just set up the camera like this, and just basically go Playblast. Make sure you have Xvid in your codec. If you don't see it, make sure you download it. It is free. You just got to type in Xvid for a search, click on it, download it, install it. Make sure Maya's not running, and then restart your computer, and then restart Maya. You should be good to go. So we don't want to show ornaments. API, Xvid, quality 100. from window, yes, scale 100. We've got 2,000 frames, so yes, now we need 4. Saved file, yes. What do we want to call it? Well, probably want to call it your first initial, last name, or something like that. And we're going to call this module MOD09 Rube Goldberg. Alright, cool. And then highlight this and do a Control C. Go ahead and click on Browse where you want to put it. I want to put it on my desktop. And I can just do Control V and copy and paste what I just named it. Click on Save and click on Playblast. So now it'll put it in on the desktop where I want it. You just have to be patient with this part. Okay, this part is easy. Now you're at a point where everything's going well. Everything's good. You got it baked, so no problems there. Nothing will change now that it's baked. Everything's keyframed now. So you're good. Bake the simulation. And then, you know, after all this, you can bring it into Premiere Pro, like what I do, and I will then set it up to play twice the speed. And then it will look a lot more natural and realistic. Believe it or not, it's just kind of a strange thing that we can't capture that with the Playblast, but you can certainly take the Playblast and bring it into Premiere Pro and make those changes. Okay. Alright, awesome. This is the Playblast I want you to give me. Okay. Alright, and that is good. That shows everything. Everything's nice and contrasted. It looks good. I can see everything. I can see the ball rolling up there, so make sure I see everything with your Playblast. There we go. That way you can get graded properly. Okay, so I don't think I need to go through this whole thing. That looks good. Okay. Now don't worry if you don't have Premiere Pro and you can't speed it up. I'm not going to take off on the speed. My main concern is, does everything work? Did you accomplish the task? And you did. And if you really want it to look right, then you would bring it into Premiere Pro. Okay, but I'm not going to take any points off, so don't worry about that. Okay, all right, good. That is it for this. I'm gonna have this up for you guys with the rest of the video, and I will see you in the next video in the mousetrap. So now you're gonna take all this information you found in here. You're going to work on setting up your own scene. You may use my elements that you see here. You can shorten them, you can lengthen them, set it up, but I want it to be your setup. I don't want to see this again. This is what we did together. You're going to do your own, but you may use anything in here that you would like. You can use the floor and the wall. You could use the dominoes or anything that I have in here. You just need to set up your own thing. Okay, with that said, that is it for this video. One last thing that I'm going to talk about is when I talk about levels, having 7 levels, this one has 7 levels. Okay, let's talk about it. I got the ramp, that's 1 level, and then we got a change, that's the next level, this guy right here. So that's 1, 2, 3, it's a level change, 3. This is a level change, 4, level change 5, level change 6, level change 7. So that's a level. 7 levels. That's how many levels you're going to have for your mousetrap. Okay? Right? So if you do ramp, 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 ramp all the way down, then that's just considered 1 level. You need to have a level change. So the ramp, ramp, that's 1 level change, and then the change you have here, level 2 for this little bucket, level 3 for the spiral, level 4 for the dynamic simulation on the dominoes, 5 for the next ramp, level change here, 6, level change here, 7. Okay? Cool. Alright, that's it, and I'll see you guys, and hope to see your wonderful, beautiful mouse traps. Make sure you create a little mouse. Okay? What am I looking for, a little mouse? Okay, let me save this real quick. You guys can go as elaborate as you want with your mouse. Okay? But Just give me something that looks like a mouse. A sphere for a body, a sphere for the head, a little bit, a little tail, some ears, a nose, and if you want to put whiskers on them, go ahead. I don't need photorealism for your mouse, guys. Don't need photorealism. That'll probably really slow down your simulation anyway. Remember, we want to keep it as low poly as possible. Okay? Alright. Again, you can reuse some of my stuff. You can reuse all my stuff if you want to, but you have to create your own. I do not want to see the same setup. Okay? So create your own with the mousetrap, and I'll see you next time. I can't wait to see what you guys turn out with. And if you render it out, you give me a beautiful animation or rendering, and make it look amazing, then you get some extra credit. Okay? So you render everything out. You have to give me a Playblast though to get the points and everything I need. But extra credit is rendering the whole thing out with beautiful textures, and this would be like a glass texture, if you do something like that, see-through stuff. And you may use V-Ray, or I don't know, Maya's got Arnold, so that's free. But if you have V-Ray, feel free to use that. Just make sure you understand how the materials work, and have fun with it. All right, have fun with the mousetrap, and I will see you guys in Module 10, where we're going to start with cloth, which will be really exciting and fun.